Hello again, it's Sarah from Delightful Tea at Home, and today I'm going to show you how to make some scones. Lovely and simple, very tasty, and these ones are going to be flavoured with cinnamon, raisins and apples. So just some things hopefully that you will have at home. So to get started, the first thing we're going to need is self-raising flour. And just to say everyone, I'm going to do a little PDF of this, so I'm not going to give quantities of ingredients, I'm just going to get them into the bowl. So get that weighed in. And then to that, I'm going to add some cold cubed butter, which won't come out of the pot. But get that in there as well. And then we're going to rub the butter into the flour. Now, the idea with this is that we're going to coat the butter with the flour. The point being that what we're trying to do is break this down, get a breadcrumb texture, but what we're trying to avoid is making the butter warm and greasy. So you just keep working through, and it's just this kind of rubbing motion, just rubbing the butter and the flour, but keeping lots of flour coating your fingers and coating the butter, and it will start to break down. Everyone's going to do this at a different speed. You can do it in a food processor as well, but I think why get that dirty when you've got these and it's just one thing to wash. But we'll keep working on that until we have the texture that we want. And that's going to take a few minutes, as I said. So I'm just going to keep rubbing like so until I'm happy I've got that breadcrumb texture. Once you've rubbed the butter into the flour, the next job is to start adding our other ingredients. So we need to add some salt. I like to add extra baking powder. The reason for that is I do like them to be really light and fluffy, and the quantities of raising agent in self-raising flour do vary a little bit anyway. So I just like a bit extra in there, so pop that in too. Then we're going to pop some sugar in. So I've just got straight white caster sugar, but you can always put some golden caster sugar in its place if you'd like to. Once you've got those three dry ingredients in, just give it a little bit of a mix round with a spatula or a trusty dough scraper. Give it a mix. Then we're going to go in with cinnamon, and this is very much to taste. So taste them and then see how you feel. The first batch, you can decide then if you'd like a little bit more cinnamon in there. So I'm not going to make this too strong, it's just going to be a hint. Mix that through as well. Then I've got sultanas here, raisins, currants will be just as good. Pop those in. And then I've got some diced apple here. Now this particular apple has been languishing in the fruit bowl for a while, so it looks a little bit of a weird colour. It would be perfectly alright. Pop that in too. And then give all of that a nice stir around too. Now you may find some of your raisins stick together. If they do, or you spot them like that, then just give them a little pull apart as you mix this through, like so. So that's our dry mix, and we're going to start adding some liquid to this. Now, in my regular recipe, I would use all yogurt as my liquid. I don't have all yogurt today, so I'm going to use a combination of yogurt and milk. So I'm going to start with the yogurt first, and just grab a spatula, and that's going to go in. All of this, it was about 3/4 of a very small pot, so not a huge amount of liquid going in. Get everything out of there. And then I'm just going to start bringing this mixture together. So just folding it in on itself like so, and it will start to clump a little bit. Now what we're aiming for here is a dough that is nice and pliable but not too sticky. You can always add flour when you're beginning to shape this and roll it out. Problem is with that is then you're starting to mess with the recipe. So we don't want to end up putting loads more flour in there. So ideally, go gently, and you'll get the right amount of liquid in first time. So you can see here that this is still extremely dry. So I'm going to put a splash of the cold milk in, and then give that a bit of a mix and a stir. Now I know that's not enough, you can sort of see it straight away, but at least if I do it that way, I'm not trying to correct myself later on. And in again with some more. And just keep adding milk until your dough is soft and pliable. So you'll reach a point where your dough's coming together, but you seem probably to have quite a lot of dry mixture in the bottom. What I suggest doing is just split the dough in half and try and scrape some of that dry stuff into the centre. That's going to be the wettest part of the dough, and therefore you should be able to catch up a lot of those crumbs by just splitting into it like so. And you can see now that there's a lot less there, a few little crumbs. I'm just going to scrape the bowl down well, turn it over on itself like so, and then just give it a feel. I use as a test, basically, if you give it a pinch and your fingers come away only slightly doughy, you're in a pretty good place with that. Right, our dough has been formed, as you can see, and the next job is to get this rolled out. I say rolled out, I'm not going to use a rolling pin, there's really no need. Your hands do a perfectly good job. But light dusting of flour, drop the dough out onto the counter and just get rid of any excess in the bowl as much as you can. And then actually tiny little bit on my hands will help as well. And then initially I'm just going to turn this over just so that it's all lightly coated in flour. That just means it's not going to get really sticky on my hands. And then just want to knead this a little. Now remember, we're not making bread here, so what we don't want to do is tighten up the gluten too much. So it's just to allow everything to come together, and hopefully by blending it all in the bowl, what we've done is quite nicely dispersed all the fruit in there. So every mouthful is going to have a little bit of everything. So now we've got our ball of dough. The next job is to flatten that down. So flatten, keep flattening like so. So I'm going to be using this cutter today. Flat edge I prefer personally, but if you want to use the fluted you can. A little extra flour, don't waste it of course. And then just rub the cutter into it. It would just help this go through. But what I want to do is just make sure that the dough is nice and level, and also that this little ridge is basically not going to start pushing down into the dough. So I want to make this a tiny little bit flatter, and again nice and level. And then I'm going to start stamping them out. And a straight push down is all we need. Straight, like so. You'll hear a puff of air. And you want to get as many cuts as you can. Once it starts to stick again, just give it a little rub. Oops. I've stamped out as many rounds as I can from the first batch. So now I'm just going to pull the dough away, like so, as much as I can. And then just using a little palette knife, I'm going to slide underneath each and just pop them onto a lined baking sheet. Give them a little bit of space in between, just so that they've got a chance to expand a little, pull off any little offcuts. And then last of all, this one. If you find they look a little bit untidy, you can just tap that back into shape. And then it's just going to be a case of taking these trimmings, rolling them back into a ball. Just going to use the excess flour. Got a little stray raisin there, so use that. And again, flattening it back down, stamping out your rounds until you've used all the dough up. Right, so whilst I've been making these, I've had my oven preheating. 190 degrees is perfect with a fan assisted. You want quite a high heat. If you've got a non-fan, then you'll need to bring that up a little bit. Don't ask me about gas because I can't think off the top of my head, but I will include that in the PDF of the recipe. So last job is just to give these a nice coating of egg wash, not too thick, but to give them a nice glaze across their surface. Right, our scones have been baking for about 20 minutes now. Ovens do vary, so bear that in mind. I'm going to get them out. And there we have it. So lovely and golden, quite a deep colour on them. And with my asbestos fingers, I'm just going to pull one apart. It's the easiest way to check. You can see they're completely baked through. Got that really nice cinnamony smell there. If you broke one open and you find that there's still a little bit damp inside, just put them all back into the oven for another minute or two. It will just make sure they're completely baked out. Next job is just to move them onto a cooling rack. They're lovely warm, but you don't want them too hot, because then you can't get enough butter on them because it melts too quickly, but nice and warm. And what I suggest with these is just a little bit of butter, lovely, or you can use clotted cream if you can get hold of it, but just really simple and tasty. They warm up well, so you can keep them for a few days, and they're absolutely perfect as a little snack, so enjoy.